Well, it's JCTheSniper here again, and today I'm still trying to get used to this camera, this new camera, but I've got another knife review for y'all today, and this is kind of a review of two knives at the same time. We've got the Kershaw OD1 and the Kershaw OD2. So, got both those knives, and I've been carrying them for a little while now, and I've been carrying them long enough that I feel like I can do a decent review, so we're going to do it. Alright, we'll start with the OD1, just because it's my favorite and it's the bigger one. First of all, we'll go over specs real quick. Blade length is 2 15/16, so as close as 3 inches as you can be without actually being 3 inches. Handle is 4 1/8 inches, which is also the closed length. Overall length is 6 13/16 inches. And the weight on this blade is 3.4 ounces. So it's a little on the heavy side, but we'll talk about why that is here in a minute. So first of all, use for this knife. What are we going to be doing with it? This is basically an EDC blade, nothing more than that, for reasons that we'll talk about. But, you know, obviously size, it's a 3-inch blade. You know, if I'm going to use something for tactical purpose or something like that, I'm going to want something like a Cold Steel Large Voyager with a 5-inch blade, or a Spyderco, well, this is the 4-inch blade version rather, or a Spyderco Enduro with almost a 4-inch blade. You know, something like that. Something with a large handle, large blade, all that stuff. Not a Kershaw OD1. It's just not going to be a good knife for that. Now, could you press it into emergency tactical service? Yes, you could. But you could do that with almost anything, including a screwdriver. It's still not going to be what you're going to want. So, EDC blade, and it performs well in that usage. Steel. This is an 8CR13 MOV. Actually, I've lied to you. It is a 14C28N. So this is the Sandvik steel. This is the little bit higher quality steel. It's better than that 8CR13 MOV. However, it's not stamped on the blade, which is why I forgot. You can see there, it just says 1775, which is the model number, patent pending, made in USA. And then over here you see Lee Williams design. And then on this side, of course, the Kershaw logo. But it doesn't say the blade steel on the blade, which they usually do, I think. Yeah, if you look at the oh so sweet, I don't know if you're going to be able to read this. Yeah, probably not. But right there it says China and 8CR13 MOV. It's real light, hard to see on the camera, but it does say it. So anyway, you get the 14C28N, which is the little bit higher quality steel in the OD1, which is nice. I haven't had any trouble with this steel. I've been using it to cut stuff, and it's been holding its edge well. Admittedly, I have not used it that long. I mean, I've been carrying this for a month now. So I have enough pocket time to say how I like it and everything, but not enough time with the steel to say how the steel is going to perform from my own experience. I know I hear from other people's experience it's a good steel. I know it's more expensive than the 8CR13 MOV. I know it's harder than the 8CR. So my guess would be it would hold up better than the 8CR. And I've not had any problems with rusting or anything, so, you know, for me, it's working out fine. I don't have any complaints against it. Now, real quick on the specs for the OD2, which is the little baby brother. This is 2 1/4 inch blade, 5 1/4 overall, 3 1/8 inch closed, and it weighs 1.4 ounces. So real tiny, little bitty baby, weighs 1.4 ounces. Definitely an EDC blade, obviously. I mean, it's tiny, minuscule. No way you're going to use that for tactical. And this one does have the 8CR 13 MOV blade. And this one's actually stamped on the blade. I don't know why they didn't do that with the OD1. The OD1 says patent pending, where the OD2 says 8CR 13 MOV, so that's probably why I was feeling like that one was 8CR. But it's not. So anyway, there you go with specs and steel and usage. So anyway, the blade steel on this one is definitely really good from all indications. I don't know necessarily from personal use, but it's supposed to be a good steel. Blade shape, I like. If you're a fan of the leak and the blade shape of the leak, this is probably a blade shape you'll like. It's pretty cool looking. I think it looks sleek and trim, and it has a very fine piercing point. You can see there how fine that tip gets. Very, very fine tip. So good for piercing. It's hollow ground from almost the top of the spine, so that's pretty cool. Gives you a nice long approach to the cutting edge, which I like. And you get a little bit of belly. Not a ton of belly, but a pretty decent amount, honestly, for this blade shape. So, you know, I think it's a pretty good shape for EDC because you get that good point for, you know, poking, cutting through stuff, drilling a hole in something if you need to, and you know, maybe sliding under something to pop it, you know, cut it, I guess, like if you had a real tight a real tight zip tie you wanted to cut, that'd be good. But it also still has that little bit of belly that you often want for EDC tasks. So, you know, that's nice. OD1, or OD2 rather, has essentially the same blade shape, just scaled down. You know, slightly different because it's scaled down, but basically the same. Just smaller. So I like the blade shape. And, you know, once again, we're talking EDC, nothing for tactical because it's not going to get used for that, hopefully. Speed is really good with these, and that's one of the cool things about this knife that I like. If you can see that little flipper on the back, see how it goes in flush, and then you can see it comes out, bloop, and that is the overdrive mechanism, which is what powers these. And it's really cool, because you flip the blade, and that flipper is not actually connected to the blade. There's a little mechanism inside there that causes it to pop out. Now, you know, so you don't get like with a flipper design where the flipper goes forward because it's actually part of the blade. It's not like that with these ODs. So, you know, like this Kershaw Oh-So Sweet with a speed safe is pretty quick. The OD1 with overdrive is just as quick. Now, it's a little bit easier to do the speed safe knives because all you got to do is pop it just past that edge and it goes. With the OD1 and OD2, you're going to need a little bit more pressure because you don't have a ton of leverage. So you need a little bit more pressure to pop it loose, but once it goes, it goes. They have a very good in-handle detent. You know, it retains pretty well. So once you overcome that detent with this little nub, it pretty much flies out of there really quickly. So deployment speed is really excellent, and I like that little overdrive thing. You know, and both blades have it. You can see it lifting out there. It's a little bit more difficult on the OD2 just because it's hard to hold on to the blade, but it still works well. So speed's really good, and it also leaves you with a very sleek appearance. because you got no thumb stud, you don't have anything sticking down below here, you don't have anything sticking up, so it's just real smooth and sleek looking. And I think it looks pretty sweet, so I like that. And same with the OD2. It does the same thing. Lockup and strength. Now this is a little bit different between these two knives. Once again, you can see here the OD1 or OD2. I keep getting these mixed up. The OD2, the little baby one, is a liner lock, and you can see the liner right there. Now you can also probably tell that's a very, very thin liner lock compared to the one on the Oso Suite, and you can see it's pretty small, and you know it's just a very small liner. So you know, but it's a very small knife, so it's not that big of a deal. And it's very light, like the spring pressure on it, it feels really light. It's very easy to depress. However, you're not going to really get into anything serious and difficult with this, so I don't see that being a problem. I mean, you're not going to be spine whacking your OD2. If you are, you're crazy, because it's not meant for that. It's not really a hard to use knife. It's just, you know, almost like, this is like your mom's knife, you know. You know, I'll give her one of these, then she'll stick in her pocket, pull it out every once in a while to cut stuff. Or, you know, maybe if you work somewhere where knives are not that acceptable, but you still need to do some small cutting tasks, cutting open boxes, stuff like that, this would be great for that. But it is not a spine whacking, batoning, chopping knife. It's just an EDC blade for small tasks. So the lockup is good. There's no wiggle up and down, side to side. It's very strong lockup for what it is. And that is a liner lock. So, you know, it's a liner lock, it's just how it's going to be. Now, the one thing I don't like about this liner lock is what you can see here if I flip it open hard. The lock goes, see how it's going almost all the way over to the other side of the handle? There is not very much room for wear there. If that wears very much, that liner is going to go all the way over and fail me. So I guess we'll see what happens with that. It hasn't yet, but if I use it enough, I can see it coming. So I guess I'll watch that and maybe update the video later. Now the OD1 is a little bit different story. I like this one much better. The lockup on this thing is pretty much beastly. Look at that. It's a liner lock, or not a liner lock, it is a frame locking design. Now you can see with this knife it's a little bit weird. On the one side you just have a frame. On the other side you have a G10 handle scale with a liner. See how much thinner the liner side is than the frame side? It's kind of wild, because it's, I don't know, it's just like, it's almost like two different knives. You know, you look at it, this side it's one knife, this side it's another knife. Here you can see both faces. It's kind of odd, but it's kind of cool. But what that gives you is a frame lock, and a frame lock is a lot stronger, obviously. Now it engages the blade on about 50% of the blade surface, which means there's a lot of room for wear, a lot of space for that to wear in, which is good. But it also still engages the blade very well, and it's a big thick piece of steel, so that lock is pretty strong. I mean, you can push on this pretty good and it doesn't move. It is very, very solid lockup. No movement side to side or up and down. Locks up really, really tightly. So that's pretty sweet. And I'm coming up on my 15-minute time, so we're going to have to cut here and go to a part 2. So hang on, bear with me.